whilst, say, in South Australia, you saw voter frustration with the lockdown sort of expressed by chucking the government out, Victoria has a Labor government but has a federal coalition government. So I think voters are well aware that Labor isn't necessarily the solution to their problems if they've got freedom concerns.
Well, here on the Flow Morning Show, it's our Tuesday edition. It's time for us to have a look at the Senate. And today we have a look at the eastern seaboard and with Rikki Lambert from our Flow News 24 desk. Rikki, it is really interesting because in Victoria and New South Wales, we may get some funny results here at this federal election.
Yeah, we certainly will. If voters feel a little trapped in their own local electorate that they think, well, someone's clearly going to win here no matter how they vote, the Senate is where they'll go and look on the big tablecloth of all the different potential parties you can vote for. They'll look at the likes of minor parties perhaps to express their frustration with major party politics.
All right, the mainstream media has been at pains to say that there weren't very many people marching through the Melbourne streets against vaccination and so forth, that small numbers went to Canberra and it's not a big issue. We may find out just how much of an issue it is as to how people vote in the Senate. If you look at, say, some of those that are from the outside, David Limbrick from the LDP. Is an outsider a chance of picking up that vote, or will it be too splayed and splattered across to different candidates?
Well, I think they are an outside chance in Victoria, Wayne, simply because whilst, say, in South Australia, you saw voter frustration with the lockdown sort of expressed by chucking the government out, Victoria has a Labor government but has a federal coalition government. So I think voters are well aware that Labor isn't necessarily the solution to their problems if they've got freedom concerns. Looking across the parties, I think that you'll see Sarah Henderson and Bridget McKenzie get their 2 seats back in the Senate, as well as Linda White replacing Kim Carr for Labor and Yana Stewart, who replaced the late Kimberley Kitching. So they'll get 2 seats each, the major parties. Greg Mirabella is a regional Victorian senator for the Liberal National Parties, or the Liberal Party there. I'm tipping he'll get a seat, even though there will be a focus on regional Victoria, I think, with One Nation running Warren Pickering, who I think is a painter from Shepparton. So Wazza there, he's running for One Nation, and Lydia Thorpe for the Greens, a divisive figure, but I think she'll get over the line and get the 6th seat.
All right, New South Wales is interesting because you've got Jim Molan, who we've had on this program talking about fuel security. Jim is also got a military background. He's in what they call the 3rd place on the ticket, or the drop zone. Is Jim Molan safe along with Marise, Payne and also Ross Cadell?
Yeah, well, look, I've coined that term the drop zone, and we'll talk about the Queensland drop zone in a little minute, but Jim Molan isn't necessarily in the drop zone because it's really actually Conchetta Fierravanti-Wells who was put in the drop zone in the pre-selections. She was put 4th on the ticket in New South Wales. They're usually good for getting 3 seats. You look at the quotas, they always get 2, the Liberals and Nationals, and most likely a 3rd as well. So Molan's in the 3rd seat. He'll get through, I think, whereas Fierravanti-Wells has actually decided to retire from federal politics because she didn't get the winnable seat there. Deb O'Neill and Jenny McAllister, the 2 Labor senators, I think will get their seats back, as well as Marise Payne and Jim Molan for the Liberals. And Ross Cadell is the new National running in New South Wales. He'll get that seat in number 2 of the ticket. The peculiar one is David Shoebridge for the Greens, who was at war with his own party for a while there. He's got the pre-selection, and I think he'll coast through and get that 6th seat in New South Wales, despite the efforts of the Liberal Democrats, John Ruddock, and the UAP's Dominic Martino.
Okay, quick look at Tasmania and at Queensland. Pauline Hanson in Queensland is actually up for re-election. Will the George Christensen factor actually help her get herself elected and a second person elected? And is George still a chance for Queenslanders voting below the line?
Well, he is a chance to help get votes below the line. He's Buckley's chance of getting into the Senate himself. But it's a little bit of a Agincourt salute, as I used to call it, the 2-finger salute to his former party, the Liberal National Party in Queensland, throwing his support behind and running 3rd on the One Nation ticket. That will help spread the votes outside of the major parties. That's a problem from Amanda Stoker, who is in the drop zone in the 3rd seat for the Senate. You've got James McGrath, the first Liberal, Matt Canavan, a National, running number 2. They'll get in. But Stoker, that's always a cynical thing they do, the LNP. They always put a good Conservative at risk in the drop zone in Queensland. I'd like to think she'll make it over the line, but the voters may well spread their votes with the Katter's Australia Party, One Nation Party and the UAP, maybe even a few Liberal Democrat votes, and that could make it really hard for Stoker.
Well, Campbell Newman too is the Liberal Democrat there, so a very high-profile candidate and maybe can steal the last Senate seat. Tasmania, we have the gender issue that is strongly being put by Claire Chandler, who is a Tasmanian Liberal senator. Is it likely that we see a strong vote Senate-wise for candidates who are, say, on the women's side of it, not for the transgender, against women in sport? This is a real issue that's reared its head over the weekend.
Well, look, it's kept kicking along all through the Easter weekend, and the focus on Catherine Devers, one of the Liberal candidates in a metropolitan seat in Sydney, and comments about transgender athletes. Claire Chandler's bill is seeking to maybe exclude women's sport, keep it to only biological women competing in women's and girls' sport. But ironically, I think the beneficiary from all that commentary in Tasmania will be a bloke, Eric Abetz. Now, Eric is he's in the drop zone in the third seat in the Tasmanian Senate, which is kind of revenge for Richard Colbeck, who was below Abetz 6 years ago, but now he's gone above. He's the sports minister, ironically. And I think that Abetz will be running a below-the-line campaign, which is often effective in Tasmania. They know how to find their candidates below the line in Tasmania. It's quite a unique element of how they vote there.
All right, a unique element as to how we all vote. And in the Senate, we're going to track those results. It could be that whoever holds the balance of power could have some very determining factors in the new parliament.